July went properly sideways for a multitude of reasons that I will get into. I'm Quinn Moone, I write queer fairy tales, and this is my July wrap up. So late. It's in August. I usually do these at the end of the month. Whatever, we're here, we're working with what we got. The reason my life totally went sideways in July is because I had friends of the family that needed some help. So I decided to help them 4th of July weekend. Unfortunately, that just exhausted me for a week. Really underestimated how tired I was gonna get sitting outside for 14 hours on the 4th of July weekend. But you know, did a good deed. Glad I did it. I will not be doing that again anytime soon. But that took up like a week. Moving into like mid-July, my sister had company over, perfectly fine. Unfortunately, Tuesday night at about 2 in the morning, my AC went out for the second time. This has happened twice already. So at 2 in the morning, I woke up sweating. I'm like, this is not good. 5:15, woke my partner up. I'm like, yo, we gotta get this fixed. And we were at Lowe's buying a window unit at 6 in the morning because fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. We're not having this done again. It is the middle of July in Texas and I had no AC because we called the repair company and they came out like, oh, good news, it's broken and we know what it is. Bad news, the part's gonna take 3 days to get here. So from Tuesday night to Friday at like 4 p.m., I had no AC. And I really underestimated heat exhaustion. It was almost 90 degrees in my house because I don't know what these builders were on. None of the windows open in this house unless they are in the bedrooms. So yay, floor to ceiling windows. Boo, none of them open. I mean, at times it was cooler outside than it was in my house. At night, especially in early mornings, it was exhausting. It was draining. I was so out of it. I did not think to put some of my produce in the fridge. So of course that went bad. I'm like, why did my tomatoes go bad in 3 days? Because the house was 90 degrees. That's why. It was so chaotic. And because my sister had company, my dogs couldn't stay at her house. I couldn't stay at her house. I mean, I'm not important. The dogs needed to be comfortable. So I had to scramble to go get a window unit for a second room for the dogs, rush them off to daycare because I was not gonna have them in this house. Thankfully, we're able to fix up 2 rooms to be habitable, but that was awful, draining, extremely stressful. And then as soon as we got AC turned back on, my dogs got sick. I think it was just because of all the stress and they don't usually go to daycare like back to back to back to back. There's like a day in between of reprieve and just normal home stuff. Dogs got sick and I'm finally coming at the end out of that. July went so sideways. I also really underestimated how active my family is. Like they have way too much going on all the damn time. And I actively say no to so much. Like I have to say no to even more stuff because it's like, no, I have like deadlines I have to do. I have reading to get done and I am behind. So for the month of July, reading was not very impressive, but I did get through some books before it all went sideways. So let's talk about them. I'm not gonna go in the order in which I read them. I'm just gonna go in the order of like stuff to talk about. So I'm gonna get the shortest one out of the way. In the month of July, I read Escaping Exodus by Nikki Drayden for my book club. This book was weird. Like tentacle babies and we are living in a living organism to survive type of weird. I am realizing that like super high sci-fi is probably not my thing. I'm glad I read it and I think there were some really interesting points to this book, but my book club and I kind of agreed that it was just too much crammed into this story that could have done 2 to 3 things really well, but it tried to do too much and it kind of just got muddled. I feel like some of the stuff kind of just petered off and it's like, yeah, and then they were gone. It's like, but how and why? We had more questions than we had answers in like not the good way. Interesting book. I'm probably not gonna read the sequel. However, there is a book in here called Temper. From what my book club told me, Temper sounds really interesting. So I might pick that one up, but this was kind of a weird book. That's why I'm talking about it first, because I'm just kind of like, I'm not sure what to say. It was kind of weird. There were good points to it. It was just a little too high fantasy for me. Glad I read it, just not for me. I think the first book that I finished was probably Penelope's Bones, because I think I read it in the first week of July. Honestly, fascinating book. I loved it. I am loving all of these fresh perspectives, all of this fresh new data that's coming out and that's being finally talked about. So in Penelope's Bones, we follow Emily Hauser as she tells us the stories of historical versions of women archetypes that appeared in the Iliad. She covers women in the Iliad and the Odyssey. So unlike other people that are trying to find like the true Helen, she takes the model of who Helen is and provides research of what she could have been based on discoveries that have taken place. So there's Helen, the face, Briseis, the slave. So she talks about the roles of slaves and the lack of presence and what certain things can be inferred from based on like things that have been found and what's implied of slaves in the late Bronze Age. Then we have Chryseis, the daughter, the roles of daughters, Hecuba, the queens, Andromache, the wives, the roles of the wives, which is extremely interesting. Where is Penelope? She's in the Odyssey. Penelope also comes up, and it's fascinating to see what Penelope. So Penelope is one of those like archetypes that's like the perfect woman that waited for her husband for 20 years. Lovely. I mean, it's great. If you love someone that much, please, I appreciate it. I'm happy for you. I'm over here kind of like, but why? And Emily Hauser provides evidence of why Penelope would have behaved the way she behaved, why it would have been in her best interest to do what she did. And it's fascinating not to write it off as this girl, this lady being like a holy example of like, what is it, the ideal woman, but being an astute, shrewd politician and knowing her role is at its most powerful when she does XYZ, and that's why she does it. Not because she's a good little wifey waiting for her hubby, but because she is smart and knows how to manipulate her surroundings to be in her favor when usually they're not. Then we got Cassandra the prophet, so they talk about like priestesses. Penthesilea, which is the Amazon, is so fascinating, especially because of the way that she was kind of discovered. To find one of the greatest things that I learned, apparently 1 in 3 warrior burials are actually women. Women were just as likely to become warriors as men. But because that doesn't really fit the narrative of what an ideal woman is, research has been purposely skewed by men to obscure that fact. And now people are talking about it. So that's fascinating. There's also other supporting documentation of other women warriors from later on in the Iron Age. All of that supporting evidence is provided in the warrior category. Same thing as we go into Women of the Odyssey. So this book was extremely fascinating from the perspective that we get what their historical counterparts probably had to do, lived through, survived, what it was like to be all of these types of women in the late Bronze Age. And I absolutely loved this book. Highly recommend it. I can't wait to go back and look at it again because honestly, it was just so fantastic. This was one of my most anticipated reads of the summer and it absolutely delivered. The next book I finished, The War That Killed Achilles. So I went into this expecting an analysis of the Trojan War. This is actually an analysis of the characters and their relationships with war as a concept, war as Homer created it, and war as it has evolved through the centuries and millennia. This was extremely fascinating to see the different relationships that these main characters had with war, and they cover both the Trojan and Greek side. So it wasn't just about Achilles. This was about all of the main characters and how they defined their relationship with war, how they defined their relationship with the gods, since the gods were a prominent part of this war in particular, and the royals and Helen, Briseis, like all of these people having this personal relationship and seeing the war through what they were probably thinking based on what we know of these characters was extremely fascinating. Like, I think I annotated this book more than I even annotated Penelope's Bones. Like, this book is going to be so helpful for me because it analyzes all of the characters and their relationship to the Trojan War, which is fantastic. So love this book. The cover was really not for my liking. I like the red cover a little bit better, but I needed the larger margins and I'm gonna use this book quite a bit. So I needed a hardcover so it can handle the abuse. And finally, I did read Call Me By Your Name. I reread Call Me By Your Name. And this book became even more special to me the second time around. I fell in love with it the first time, but reading it now at this point of my life, reading it after I've read other queer lit, as I've kind of grown in my critical reading and my ability to see past the surface text to what the author could be saying, to what's implied, to the subtleties and the nuances between the text and the characters themselves. This was such a treat. I'm so glad that I did this because I also finally understood what the role of the book party was. I hated that part. I thought it was so boring. I'm like, why is this even here? And, you know, my old self right now, I'm just like, no. No author at the caliber of Andre Aciman adds in an entire section that's pointless. There is a reason for it. I have to find that reason. And I finally realized what it was. Not gonna say. But this was beautiful. This was fascinating. I have a whole new appreciation for Elio and Oliver's relationship. I have a whole new appreciation for the fact that Elio never changes. Elio is still 17 and insecure no matter what his age is as he interacts with Oliver. Because towards the end, Elio should be in his late 30s, early 40s, late 30s and early 40s. And he is still asking for Oliver's acknowledgement that he meant something. Let's just sit in that. As a teenager, he was longing for acceptance and love from Oliver. As a young adult, he was running away from it because he couldn't stomach what happened. As an adult in his 30s, early 40s, he's finally okay with longing for it, and he wants Oliver to show him that he remembers. That is so vulnerable. That is so real, because usually by the time you reach that age, like Elio's father said, you go emotionally bankrupt. You stop believing in true love. You stop believing that love fixes everything. You stop believing in the one that got away, and you just like, well, chalk it up to something. Something didn't work out, right? It was probably gonna go sideways anyways. But that magic never leaves Elio. And that's so special, especially now that I'm older. I appreciate that so much because I also understand what Oliver meant to Elio if that magic persists. I don't know who I love like that, that like, I'm still wanting them to tell me that they remember me. I'm still wanting them to tell me that I mattered to them. I have never loved anyone like that. And that's perfectly fine. Like, I'm not destined to have that kind of love. I'm a little too crusty and old for that kind of love. I feel like I wanted that as a teenager, and to see that Elio and even Oliver to an extent never grew out of that, and the magic still stays between the both of them, was something that was extra special as I have grown up, and I love being able to see that. So rereading Call Me By Your Name is probably one of the best decisions that I made this summer. Those are all the books that I read. That's like literally it, because 2.5 weeks of my month were spent like dying of heat exhaustion, dealing with my sick babies, or like recovering from heat exhaustion. So it was such a hectic month, y'all. Like, it was so hectic. So that's all that I read. I hope your reading list is better. Tell me what you read in July. Tell me if you read any sad gay books or any happy gay books. I mean, I would love that too. I look forward to the discussions because I have missed this. I have missed recording. I have missed talking about my books. Like, I have very few things I love, right? I love my partner most days, my dogs all the time, and reading and writing. I couldn't read and write like that. I only had my dogs, which are perfect, and my partner, who is great most of the time. But we do get on each other's nerves. That's kind of just the way we go. He's watching me right now and he's flipping me off. I get on his nerves too. It's just the way it goes. Like, we can't stand each other 1,000 times, like 100% of the time. Like, it's just not the way it happens. And we were stuck in 2 little rooms of the entire house together for 3.5 days with our 2 dogs. The dogs were fine. We were just like, do you have to be so close on the bed? Like, there's only one bed and it's a queen size, and the other one is a king, but that one's upstairs. So it was crazy. It was chaos. I am happy to finally be recording again, to finally be talking about my books, to talking about what I've read. Here's to hopefully the rest of the year not going so sideways. I can't wait to hear what everybody has read. That's it for this video. Catch you guys next time. Bye.